And finally, we now cross over to Wahiga Mora, who will be telling us more about what has been making news on social media platforms. Wahiga?
Yes, Hussein, how are you doing?
Good.
How is the longest month in the year treating you? People are really counting down. 18 days, 16 days?
I bet you're not really well. I bet you're not. Okay.
Hussein, why do you have to do? I will deal with you after this. Let's get to business real quick. One of the biggest talking points this week has been the IEBC for two reasons. Number one, of course, court asking for voter registration to be pushed. They are not sure if there are enough BVRs to cover all the polling stations. Of course, also the rectangular special sitting also caused the hashtag IEBC to trend. Some of the statistics out there, 560,000 people actually got to look at this hashtag. In addition, 74 users and 132 posts. Let's look at where it was trending across the world. Two major areas in Kenya. We started in the States 9% and in Kenya at 91%. So of course Kenyans in the USA also weighing in on this matter. Let's look at what people were saying, Hussein, and just a quick few views on the same. We have Daniel Kamanga saying the gloves are off. We are just in January 2016. IEBC should bring elections forward. See, let's get this over and done with, so we can continue with development matters. All right. Cody says that isn't too much to ask. If IEBC is praying for electoral voting in 2017, they should have enough BVRs. So a call to IEBC on that. Francis Kagunya saying, why are elections being held in 2017 instead of 2018? The Constitution says after 5 years. I believe you want to correct him on that. Bearing in mind 2007 plus 5, 2012, but we actually had our elections in 2013. 2013, yeah. So simple mathematics there. I hope we've answered him. And Charlie Wamta saying IBC better hold the referendum during the election period, combine everything. We have seen too much campaigning going on. Right. Those are some of the trends that were happening in regards to the IBC. Second talking point is Eurobond, also another big talking point, bearing in mind a court leader was 3 days ago actually said that in 3 days I'll release the names of those who have quote-unquote misused Eurobond money. Kenya is still waiting to hear about that. These are some of the statistics. 6.3 million people actually saw that, 387 users interacting. Let's take a look at where some of the interaction was coming from in terms of countries there. In the USA 3%, Kenya 90%, and in South Africa.
What does that say, Wahiga? Every time we look at the breach there and we talk about the USA, is it the Kenyan community there? Are they very largely I'll say it's the Kenyan community. For me, I look at a country now without borders. Right. Compared to other countries, the Kenyans in the diaspora, seems like we have a lot happening in the US than other Kenyans in
of course, looking at the size of the U.S. and our love for greener pastures, or what looks like greener pastures, and also the fact that we might have a chance when the diaspora will actually be voting in the next Kenyan elections if all the infrastructure is put in place. So I bet they are paying keen attention to what's happening. Everything that's trending there on top of that as well. Let's see what the tweets were all about very quickly. What Kenyans were talking about in regard to this. Kyoko says 3 days are over. We expect Raila Amolo Odinga to reveal those who are misappropriating the Eurobond proceeds, and that was the general trend. Hussein Colin Zegwada saying the term Eurobond will soon change to Eurobondage because of course you know that we are paying that debt, and economists will tell you that. The Peasant has Raila's 3-day notice on Eurobond lapsed yet? Curious. So we are waiting to see how that story will continue. And finally, Gitawa Warimo saying thinking Eurobond or Chicken Gate is about Raila Uhuru is a big mistake. It's about economic health, prosperity, and the destiny of all Kenyans. If only all politics was looked at with those particular glasses, I think we'd move on. We cross over to Mombasa. Big hashtag there, Waitiki, was trending, talking about the 930-acre piece of land where the president led his government there to give about 7,000 title deeds, or better yet, certificates of lease for 99 years or so. It was trending not just in Kenya as well. 5 million people engaged in this, 215 users, 318 posts. Let's take a look at where the biggest conversations were taking place. Interestingly, some of the same locations.
USA, South Africa.
Of course, the 0.1% we haven't quite put. So in other countries as well, there's conversation.
But not as much.
Not as much. And there you see Kenya at 94%. Quickly, let's look at some of the tweets that were coming up regarding this saga. Samuel Kuyo keeps it simple. At last, for him, he sees light at the end of the tunnel in this matter. I like that. Kanoga says Waitiki squatters should at least pay. Soon most will sell the land and invade other areas. Nothing is free nowadays. even water. That's his view. So for him, payment should happen. Of course, it's been a big discussion. Joseph Mwangi saying, we're too quick to criticize as Kenyans. For Waitiki, there was no other solution. So he's on the other side. And finally, Wakesho saying Kenyans are tired of the land problems being used for political mileage, sort out the land problem in the coast genuinely. That's her opinion.
Right.
We cross borders now to Uganda. One of the biggest hashtags there has been Uganda Decides. On the 18th of next month, barely 4 days after Valentine's, Ugandans will go into the polls. They've got 7 presidential candidates. Many are saying it's a 3-horse race. It's a big discussion, 3.9 million, and we're talking about statistics maybe for the last 2-3 days. It's a much bigger number, 362 users. Let's look at where Ugandans, both in Uganda and across the world, were talking about this topic. In the USA, 2%, in Uganda, 87%, and in Kenya, Ugandans living in Kenya are actually weighing in heavily on this, as well as Kenyans.
Could be Kenyans as well.
Yes. Of course, we're very interested in what's happening with our neighbors. They say good neighbors make good fences, so you need to be looking at what's happening in your neighbor's backyard. Some of the tweets are very quickly coming up. John Goslino says, people keep voting on wrong bases and for wrong people and expecting things to be different. Hashtag Uganda Decides, telling people to think about their vote. Masereka Charles, this is interesting considering the debate you've just had, Hussein. So pastors have started prophecies for 2016 Uganda Decides general elections. Hope they turn out to be true. That's an interesting one right there, of course. I am Owino. In politics, interests are elastic. Anyone can stretch them to their bedrooms. So no interests are never fixed. So you have a candidate here today and a candidate there tomorrow. This is an interesting one, Hussein, because it shows us what may be happening in Kenya when we get to our own elections. We have Kiza Besigye, who's also in the race, and his social media team have actually come up with a social media plan that translates on the ground. So it's a 3-step plan. Number 1, they're asking if you're already on social media. Secondly, they ask you what are the conversations you're having, talk about the team. And thirdly, it's actually a call to action. Remember, social media was a big discussion in Kenya in 2013. Many not quite sure whether it contributed to elections. Some were saying you're trending on social media, but no one is voting for you. We can see in Uganda, candidates actually calling people on social media, make sure you get 3-4 people. And I think we may see more of that when our time comes, which is not very far off. Very quickly, let's take a look at 2 videos. We always like to wind up trends on a lighter note. And the first one, or before we get to that actually, Hussein, I want you to look at this. This was just before the Ballon d'Or. I'm a sportsman, so I have to bring in sports just very quickly. FIFA came up with this to show you where the gala will be held in terms of on live TV time zones. But Africa did not have a time zone. I know some people saying that Europe's time zone cuts into Africa. Africa has 6 different time zones, Hussein. Why did FIFA not see it fit to play even just 1 dot? It would have taken a minute.
Should probably ask them what he got.
So that caused quite a lot of uproar on social media. Yes, I mean, FIFA, someone tell FIFA, we need to have our own little graph there. So let's look at the videos real quick. The first one, this happened in Oregon, Portland. Hussein, I know people are scared of snakes, but this man actually decided that he's going to steal one in a very peculiar way.
Whoa.
Look at where he puts it. In his pants.
And that's a real snake.
And that's a real snake, Hussein. It's a python, 2 feet long, and he stuffs it in his pants. Yes, so the smaller version.
Yeah.
And he stuffs it in his pants.
Probably not poisonous.
Yes. Yeah. We want to believe so. And for me, just looking at his walk there, I'm wondering what was going on in his mind. And
you never know.
You never know. Somebody was asking earlier on if the python was hungry. What would have happened in that particular scenario?
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Any suggestions?
I don't know. Maybe it could be a millionaire now. You never know.
Well, it was worth $200. That's 20,000 Kenya shillings. I don't think it was worth all that. But finally, as I mentioned, I'm a bit of a sportsman. And so I want to finish with sports on a lighter note. Have a look and then we'll talk about this. If you can hear me, Hussein.
Yeah.
Someone proposed, but it didn't quite go as expected. First of all, ladies rarely propose.
On a football. Oh.
There he goes. I don't know if we can see that just one more time, my director. So there we go, Hussein. I know that didn't happen to you, or you wouldn't be here with us. But
oh, that is sad.
So there she goes. She's got everything set up.
Where is it
now? A whole match to share her love for this man.
Where did this happen?
And this happened about a year ago. But the video was shared, now of course sometimes in Kenya things trend a bit later.
Or maybe they didn't just want to release it. So embarrassing.
And what I find interesting, he took a minute, he thought about it,
then he came back.
And he panicked, and he ran away. And that was the end of the story. We are not told whether he came back or not, and I doubt that after humiliating...
I think we should deliberately try and find out who this person was.
You've given me homework for next week.
Maybe in future, yeah, and let's see if they could be together now, you never know.
They could be happily married.
Yeah.
I'll bring you the continuation of that story on 10, so for our viewers, you have to keep watching that at H. Mohammed G, at Citizen TV Kenya, at Wahiga Mwara, and of course, hashtag the big question. Thank you, Hussein.
Hussein Mohammed G. Wahiga. Plus, it's Hussein Mohammed G. Wahiga, and two things you need to notice about Wahiga, showing us that clip about the lady proposing. They are still hung up about weddings and all that, Wahiga Mwara, and also telling us the Uganda election will be 4 days after Valentine's Day. That shows you what is really dominating his mind right now. But thank you all the same. Wahiga Mwara, and we'll be joining him again next week, God willing. A look at final SMSs here. Mugai from Donholm. We do not have a problem with churches with structures. What about anybody who wakes up one day and opens up a church alone and makes his own cash cow? I believe all religious leaders go through the theological training. What is the problem by having a certificate? Let's be honest to ourselves and tackle issues as they are. Kamau, watching from Busia, says, I support the preachers. The government should regulate the rogue preachers and rogue gospel artists who don't sing the real gospel, rogue comedians who make fun of the gospel. And Bishop Njoroge says, what have you done over the years, asking the church or the religious leaders, what have you done over the years to rein in on these preachers who belong to the evangelical fellowship? Well, thank you for your comments on 22422 on Twitter and for watching The Big Question. I'm Hussein Mohammed. Have a good night.